Hi everyone, I'm Jane, and today we are going to dig deep into my old pile of paint party paintings that we used to do at my gallery, and we're going to do the House on Haunted Hill. This was by far the most popular painting we did in my paint parties at my gallery. Sometimes we did it several times a week and clear to Christmas. Make sure you check out the video description below for a full list of materials, as well as a link to our Art Monster Squad Facebook group, where you can join and share your paintings with me and our community. Now let's get started. For this background, I'm just going to do a simple fade from red into yellow, which will create orange in between, and from yellow down into white. So I'm going to take my 1-inch flat brush, wet it in my jar, just wipe off the drips, and then I'm going to lightly cover it in a thin layer of water. That's just going to help me get a smoother blend. Now I'm going to load up with some Cadmium Red Deep Hue. But you really can use absolutely any colors you want for this. We used to do this painting several times a week when I did paint parties at my gallery. This was actually probably my most popular painting in my paint parties. And I have seen this painting done in just about any color combination you can imagine. So I'm just going a little over it to make sure it's a really smooth layer of red. And now I still have red on my brush. I'm just going to pick up some yellow. To get a nice smooth blend between the red and the yellow, I'm going to start laying the yellow down right underneath the red. And then I'm going to work up into it slowly, right up into that red, and then right back down. And that's how you get a good blend. Now I've cleaned off my brush, and that's because I want an area that's got a pretty true yellow to it. So again, I'm going to start right below and work up into it and right back down. And now I'll go back and make sure that there's none of these weird lines on the edges. Just light pressure to even out your brush stroke. I'm putting almost no pressure on my brush here. I'm going to go at the edge there because I feel like there's too sharp of a line between the red and the orange. Back flat. There we go. Remember, painting on the edge like that helps you get rid of lines. Now I've cleaned off my brush again, and I'm going to get just white. Start right below the yellow, up into it, and right back down. And that's a super easy way to get a really quick faded background. Now I'm going to let this dry, and while I let it dry, I'm going to plan out where I want the elements that I'm going to paint on top of it. So while you let yours dry, feel free to get a pen and a paper and just start sketching out some ideas for your haunted house, the placement of all the elements that you want, and to practice drawing anything that you feel like you might have a hard time with. All right, so once your canvas is dry, you can either just go right to it with your black paint, or you can get a piece of chalk and kind of sketch it out. I wouldn't normally sketch it out, but I'm going to do that for you so you can see how I'm going to plan this out. So I had a mishap while filming, so you might be able to see some chalk lines that I had to erase. Now, if you're going to do chalk on here, I would strongly recommend that you wait until the next day to remove it. And the reason for that is, even though this canvas is dry, the paint hasn't cured yet. So if you take a damp brush to clean up these chalk lines, you may remove some paint. And I have a couple spots here where my paint has gotten a little light, so that's just a caution for you. So now we're going to plan out where we want all of the elements. So I have my piece of chalk, and I'm going to start with the ground. And I like a little bit of a rounded ground. And you can do these shapes however you like, just like in the Choose Your Own Painting Adventure video I did, where I showed you how to get different moods out of doing the exact same things, but with different shapes. But I want kind of a whimsical, curly looking Halloween scene, not a jaggedy, kind of scary one. So there's my ground. Now I want to decide where I want my haunted house, and I want my haunted house to be kind of right up in this area. So that means I don't want the top of my hill to come up any higher than about the middle of the canvas. So I'm gonna make a little mark there. That's where the top of my hill is gonna be. So I'm gonna come from that line and create my spiral. And then I'm gonna come off of that and bring it down to the edge. Let's fill in the spiral. I want it to be pretty narrow in here. Bring it up, around, and down into the ground. I'm gonna have a tree that comes off of the ground here, and I like it to be growing up out of the ground, almost like it's a piece of the ground, not just growing from it. So I'm just gonna mark out where the trunk is gonna be. I'm gonna have a moon up here, and I want this moon to be very whimsical and not real moon-like. So I'm gonna come around with a C shape, up, around, and maybe kind of a spiral too. We'll see. Maybe I will not do a spiral once I start painting it in. We'll see how I feel when I get there. That looks like a 6. I won't make it look like a 6. Get as creative with your house as you want. It can be a very simple haunted house. It can be really big and elaborate, whatever you like. Yeah, I think I'm actually gonna bring my hill out a little bit. Yeah, I like that better. Okay, so my house, again, I want it looking like it's kind of growing up out of the ground. It's kind of curly. I'm not going to get real crazy with proportions. Really sweep that into the hill. And I'll probably add some other things as we go. I'm going to fill in my ground and my hill real quick before we move on to anything else. So I'm going to take my 1/2-inch angle brush, wet it in my jar, and load it with some black paint. Sorry, you can probably hear that jet going by. They're flying around a lot today, so I can't wait for them to stop. So I'm going to come on my hill and just draw that out. You can give it a little wiggle if you want it to have kind of a rocky look. And now you can fill it all in. I'm going to go to my 1-inch flat brush for this bottom part. And let's go ahead and do our moon. And I've decided to do my moon different. And I am using my angle brush, but I know for some of you doing curves with the angle brush is difficult. So if you need to use a round brush or something else, that's okay. So I'm going to come up and around. And back up. And then I'm going to make them nice and wide in the back. And nice and pointed at the ends. All All right, let's start on our house. Still using my angle brush, but again, you're welcome to use any brush that you're comfortable with. So I'm gonna come from the ground and really smooth it up into the house. Don't put your hand in wet paint. And I think I've changed my mind on how I want to do this house. So I'm going to come up about that far. From this side, we'll come up the hill too. Let's give it a little balcony. With a little overhang. I'm not going to fill in any of this because we still need to add our windows. And then here we're going to come down, create another little overhang. And a front porch with some stairs. So I'm just going to make a little line and a little line. This is going to be where our stairs are. We'll just do 3 stairs. They're really wonky angled stairs, but this is a really wonky angled house, so that's okay. And our porch is very angled and strange, just like the rest of the house. A little support pole. And I will fill that in because there's not going to be any windows in the stairs. Put a little support pole here. Now, let's draw some windows before we move on. And I've got this little tiny round brush, loaded it up with some black paint, and we'll draw a window. Let's do a kind of a wonky, crazy window right here. So we'll come up and back down. Close it off at the bottom. Give it some crazy little cross beams. How about here under this balcony, we give like a little, it's got to have some kind of a little support thing there. So I'm going to draw a little spiral that comes up to meet it, swoops back down with another little spiral on the bottom. And we'll make another window. Let's do a little circle window here. Maybe we'll put a little spider web in it. So I'm just going to make some lines radiating out and then connect them with some little scallop shapes. So swoop up and swoop up. Let's give it a crazy little chimney thing, or maybe it's just another level to the house. So I'm going to come off of this piece of the roof, swirl it this way a little bit, and back down. And let's say there's a jaggedy little chimney coming off of here. So I'm going to come from here, and I am going to zigzag this just a little bit in kind of a crazy way. And we'll put a little cap on it. Actually, I feel like I want to make this whole piece right here kind of jaggedy, so I'm going to just bring that down the side. And maybe let's put a couple little windows in it. I think we need a little attic window. And we'll just do a little square. And if you don't like any of these windows, once you start filling it in, then just paint over it. So now I'm going to fill it all in with my angle brush. Careful not to paint over your windows that you like. Give the porch a little railing. Let's go ahead and start on our tree. So I've got my angle brush, and I'm going to start by blending the trunk down into the ground. But you don't have to do that if you don't want to. And let's give it some branches. So I'm going to come up and out. And then I'm going to widen some of them, get the trunk all filled out. And we can start adding some more. I'm going to leave this branch blank for now because I want to put a swing that's hanging down off of it. So I'll focus on the other branches. I think I'm actually going to go to this round brush that's just a little bit larger than the other one that I was using. I'm going to come along the edge there and put a little curl. And I think that's what I'm going to do all over. This is not the best brush to be doing this with. It's kind of giving me fuzzy ends of my curls, but I think I kind of like it, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. I'm really looking forward to starting my line of detail brushes soon, and I'll have a round brush that isn't dumb like this one. I'm gonna go back to my tiny brush just to give some little itty bitty branches in here. Making little spirals like this can take a little bit of practice, so if you're trying for them and you're having a hard time, don't get frustrated, just keep practicing them. You will get it. It's just all about brush control. So if your brush control isn't where you want it to be just yet, the only way you're going to get there is by keeping at it. I think I'm almost done putting branches on here. You don't have to get as crazy with your branches as I am. I'm gonna draw a swing. Now I want the strings on my swing to be very straight. So if you need to use a ruler to do that, that's perfectly fine. What I'm gonna do is put my hand right on my canvas, use my paintbrush like a pen, see how far down I'm holding it? And I'm not gonna try and like sketch it out, because when you sketch it like that, every time you go over it again, you make it slightly different, and pretty soon you're gonna have a wide line that's really jaggedy. So what I'm gonna do is let gravity bring my hand straight down. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm not doing it with my fingertips. I'm just letting gravity bring my arm down. So put your brush right on the branch and gravity. A little extra water on your brush will help you get a nice crisp line like I didn't get. Much better. And on the other side. I'm going to go straight across to make the bench. And it's okay if the bench is a little bit wobbly, because it's an old wood bench. Make it extend out from the sides just a little bit. And I'm going to paint a cat on my bench. And we're going to do this cat very, very simple. So with my little round brush right in the middle of the bench, I'm going to draw a tall oval. And you can make them as big or as little as you want. And fill them in with black. For his feet, we're going to do very simple. I'm just going to come off of the oval and swoop forward just a little bit. And his head, I'm going to put right up on top of his shoulders, kind of an egg shape, and I want him looking this way, so the pointed end of the egg shape is going to be on this side. So about like that, come around and back up. Let's smooth his head down into his body a little bit. We'll give him some ears. Now let's talk about ears for a second. So I want it to look like his head is turned, or his body is turned and he's facing this way. He's not facing us, he's not facing directly away from us. So think about that when you're placing his ears. So let's draw his head right here. Generally. If we put his ears perfect triangles side by side, then it's going to look like he's either facing us or facing away from us. But if we do his head and we put his ears a little more narrow and closer to each other, see, that tells you that he's looking away from you. So that's kind of what we're going to do. So I'm going to put an ear right here. And another one right here up against it. Now he looks like he's looking away from us. And let's give him a tail. So we're going to come right off of his bottom here, down, around, and do whatever you want with that tail. I give mine a really long, whirly tail. So I should have done this part before I did the tree, but that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and do it now. I actually want to add a fence here, like a rickety old fence. So I'm going to come from here, push a little bit, bring it down. So it's like a little picket fence. Maybe I'll make it a little bit taller. kind of a rickety looking thing. And we'll do another one here. It's going to overlap my tree a little bit, but that's okay. So what I'm doing is just touching the point, and then as I bring it down, slowly putting more pressure on, and then releasing the pressure as I get to the bottom, so I get kind of that arrowhead looking top. I'm going to do a little bit of that fence in here too. If you're not comfortable using brush pressure to make that shape, then you can absolutely just draw it out. But I like that the brush pressure method doesn't give me a consistent look, because I want this to look like a crazy old fence. Going back to my little liner brush now, and we're going to connect the fence and give some teeny little grasses that grow at the base of it. And just like the crossbars in my windows, they're not going to be straight, so I'm just going to bring one down to here. Bring one across here. It's kind of a falling down fence. And then just right at the base, I'm just going to kind of flick in some little grasses. If you wanted to put little tombstones in here, you could do that too. When we used to do this painting at my paint parties, I had people do all kinds of crazy things with this painting. And our little grasses. I'm going to do some little grasses just at the base of my tree, then we're going to do one more fun thing and we'll call it done. In this little bottom area, if you want to turn it into a little cemetery or put whatever you want, this is a really fun painting because you can do all kinds of things. Really do anything you want with it. Any color combination you want, any elements you want. All right, let's draw a couple of little ghosts. So I'm using my round brush. It's about 1/4 inch round at the base, maybe not quite that big. I'm gonna load up with white paint, and this is gonna be a very simple ghost. We're gonna bring the top of his head from here, kind of swoop him back. And I'm gonna make it look like he's coming from behind the house. So I can paint the black back over that. I'm okay if he's a little transparent, he's a ghost. So we'll put him in there. And we'll do another one up here. Maybe he'll be a little bit more outside of the confines of the house. If you want to use your paint a little bit wetter here so that the color is more transparent, or you could even use titanium or zinc white or transparent mixing white. I'm just using titanium white. Maybe I'll leave him outside of the house. So we'll give him a little bit of a wispy tail. Cleaned off my brush, I'm gonna get just a little bit of black, not very much, and we'll give him some eyes, and all the eyes are gonna be is just a little touch and a swoop, and a touch and a swoop. Same thing for his mouth, maybe push a little harder, He's got his little ghost face. Same thing with this guy up here. And then I'm going to paint the house back over top of this one. And put my little curl back in. And then I'm going to sign it. And there's your spooky and fun house on Haunted Hill. In the time that we did this painting at my paint parties, I literally saw this painted in any color combination you can think of with so many different elements. So feel free to really take this as a basic idea and run with it. You could absolutely add highlights to all of the elements. You could do the elements in different colors. You can add anything you like to it. Just use this as a starting point and then go crazy with it. If you like this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and maybe share it with a friend who you think would like it as well. If you haven't yet subscribed, please make sure that you do so that you can paint with me every week. I have several more Halloween paintings coming before the end of the season. Also check out the video description below for links to where you can find me all over the internet, including my Patreon page where you can become a contributor to help me continue to make these awesome videos for you, and our Art Monster Squad Facebook group where you can join and share your paintings with me and our entire community. Thank you as always for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time.